Hello everyone, this is Philosophy 67, Political Philosophy, and we are doing now, this is week 9 for us, and the beginning of part 3 of the class, which is called Technology, Machinic Assemblage, and That, TEBT. So remember that we started the semester with the first part of the class was called Sovereign Power and Dialectical Subversions. Then part 2 of the class was called Capture and Lines of Flight, the Prison and the Camp, right? So accordingly, in part 1, right, we started with Hobbes, some chapters from Leviathan on the question of sovereign power, the formulation of the theory of sovereign power, the emergence of the modern state, right, of the law, and then we saw Carl Schmitt write sections from the concept of the political and political theology that was still in the face-to-face situation before the semester was disrupted right by the pandemic, as we know. Then we did Hegel and the dialectic of master and slave and Marx, especially on the question of alienation, exploitation, the class struggle, right, social change, and so on. And then we moved from there to part 2, again, like I said, Capture and Lines of Flight, the prison and the camp. We did a class, we had a class on the question of feminism and class and gender and so-called women's work. We read from Dalla Costa and James, from women and the subversion of the community, and also from Federici, a chapter from Caliban and the Witch, and then we got into colonialism and decolonization, with we saw especially passages, important passages from chapter 1 of The Wretched of the Earth, from by Frantz Fanon, right? The chapter called Concerning Violence. And then we moved, week 7, we did the question of the prison, right? Slavery and the prison. The prison extended to society as a whole. We did focus especially on some chapter sections from Foucault, right? Discipline and Punish from Michel Foucault, right? I mean, Discipline and Punish, the birth of the prison, and also Angela Davis, are prisons obsolete? And then we saw the question, the extension of this, if you will, right? I mean, in with George Agamben, the question of the camp, right? From the prison to the camp, but same idea, the camp virtually everywhere, right? So the section of the class, last class, was called Biopolitics, Life and Bare Life, the camp as the political, right, paradigm, the biopolitical paradigm of our own times. So today, technology, machinic assemblage, that's the question, that's the title of this last third and final part of the class. The week for the title for today's class for this week, week 9, is enframing, framing, right? You had that in the syllabus, and the essence of technology. We are reading this difficult essay by Heidegger, a 20th century philosopher, very important philosopher, controversial but very important. I can't go into that now, but the essay is called The Question Concerning Technology, right? And the journal entry suggestion, remember, do write your journal entry. That's all we are doing this semester. It's very important, right? Every week do the journal entry and try to elaborate on it, since that's all we are doing, try to maybe write a little more. So the question is, what is enframing? You will see that in as you read this difficult essay, but I'll try today to give you some pointers, some insights, some help, right? And what is the danger? Enframing and the danger, okay, in precisely the text by Heidegger that we are reading. And again, because as always, I had to necessarily be kind of sketchy. I can't, and I don't want to be too long. Let me say that there are a few points that I want to touch on. Right, these are the main points, perhaps, that we are going to basically develop. Then I will read some passages here and there from the text. But one is the question of technology, precisely the essence of technology, right? I mean, what you see at the beginning and throughout then at the essay, but from at the outset already, that technology and the essence of technology are two different things. Okay, so please think about what this might be in relation maybe to what I said, to what you may gather from this difficult text. Then one point that I want to also highlight already at the beginning, by way perhaps of anticipation, will then go more orderly throughout the text, is that technology is revealing, a kind of revealing. This is an important modality in Heidegger, what it is to reveal something, right? So in a sense, technology reveals itself. Ultimately, technology is not, right? I mean, it's not simply the device, as Heidegger says, the iPhone, the smartphone, and so on and so forth, the airplane, the automobile, and so on and so forth. That's not simply what the question of technology really is, and it is not what it is really about, but the essence of technology, the revealing what is not also ultimately of a human making. Technology is not of I mean, certainly the question of the essence of technology is not something which is made okay, by us. Okay, we will see what this means maybe later. So remember, technology as revealing, you find that on page 14, page 19. Another important point is when I spoke, by the way, about the essence of technology at the beginning, that was one of the pages, would be page 29, just to give you some reference. And then that technology is the essence of technology is nothing technological, right? That's where then the question of revealing comes from. The question, the fact that technology is not human made, it is not technological itself. Okay, that's on page 35. Maybe we'll certainly go back there, but that's the end of the essay. But maybe again, because of the time frame we have, it might be good also to go to the end of the essay immediately and see what this means, right, when he says precisely on page 35, which is, I believe, yes, it is the last page, right, when he says in the middle of page 35, because right, I'm reading, the essence of technology is nothing technological. Okay, think about what this might be, right? I mean, then I'll go back to that in a moment and see also the relation between technology, techne, from which technology comes, and art, that Heidegger says, originally in the Greek sense, in Greek philosophy, they were the same. Okay, so but technology is nothing technological means the essence, I'm sorry, of the essence. I hope that this is clear, right? The essence is the core, if you will, of something, the real what of something, the whatness, what something really is, right? I mean, the essence of technology itself is not technological, right? It's not a machine, and so on and so forth. Okay, so and then so these are the points again: the essence of technology, which is not technological. Then the question of technology as revealing, right? We'll speak more about this, what it is to reveal and reveal itself. And then the question, precisely very important, of enframing. enframing, which is a word that you find probably the first occurrence of enframing comes on page 19, right? And you see that this enframing is a translation from, you have a footnote as well, that explains the difficulty in translating this Gestel word, this German word, is enframing, right? But framing, what is it to frame? I mean, think about the last, right, the second part of the class that just ended, right? I mean, from week 5 to week 8, we call that capture and lines of flight. Capture, it is the enframing, framing, the frame. Framing is a situation of capture in many ways. Okay, so we will see this more, but in any case, enframing is perhaps the most important concept right here. Okay, so page 19, that's the where you find it to begin with the first time, where Heidegger says toward the end of the page, we now name that challenging. You will see what this challenging is as you read this. Difficult because also of the language he uses. You had to get used to the language, right? So we now name that challenging claim which gathers men thither to order the self-revealing and standing reserve, Gestel enframing. So there is basically the idea is that there is this enframing, that there is something which is not of our choosing. There is something which is not human-made, which is ultimately the question of destiny and destinying, right? It is what is there to begin with, and the situation in which, the place in which we find ourselves, okay, to begin with. Then we do many things. We humans, we do many things. We make history and so on and so forth, but always within, for Heidegger, a place, a situation which is, if you will, maybe the word is a bit strong, decided, that has been decided to begin with. We spoke about decision as the word of the sovereign, the prerogative of the sovereign, right? Remember with Carl Schmitt as well, right, in political theology. That's the second thinker we saw this semester, right? Sovereign is he who decides on the exception. But this decision that, in a sense, Heidegger is speaking about comes before any form of political sovereignty. The enframing is there to begin with. Okay, so in any case, page 19, then 20 and 21, page 23, 24, these are important pages. Page 25, where you will see also the concept of destiny. Not destiny in the sense that something that happens to me, that it happens because it was meant to happen, but destiny is that which always remains there. Destiny or destining, okay? What remains there, what it is there to begin with, and what has always been there and will always be there, okay? The destiny, ultimately, of that which is being, B-E-I-N-G. And then, okay, so then on page 31 also, but an important page will go to that in a moment, page 30. I'm giving you some references where you can go and find important things. The text is, in any case, highlighted for you. I mean, pay particular attention to those highlighted sections. And then the question of the danger. Page 26, page 28, and page 33. Other places too, but these are important moments in which Heidegger speaks about the danger. Okay, so I go back to this again. 4 points. Maybe I have highlighted the essence of technology, which is nothing technological. Then two, technology as a revealing, right? The coming to the fore of what is of the truth. You will see the word soon. I will call attention to that as well. The word aletheia on page 12 already. Aletheia, a Greek word which is usually translated with truth, but which is really the coming out of concealment. Something is concealed, so to speak, comes out of concealment. It is revealed, right? Coming out of a hiding, so to speak, place. It is revealed as such. That's aletheia, this word that you find on page 12, other places too. And that is, that's the truth. Usually it's translated as the truth. Okay, truth, right? That's the revealing. Technology is revealing the history of this revealing. And then again the enframing. So these are again the points that I'm calling attention to. And then danger. Okay, these 4 points. Again, essence of technology. Technology is revealing the truth, enframing, and and danger. Okay, so to go then to again, I don't want to be too long, and I hope, because this is difficult, right? You have to use also your interpretive skills as much as you can. Read, even if you don't understand, read until you get to the point where you understand something, and maybe say something about that, build on that in the context, in any case, of the class as a whole, right? Coming from studying the question of power, sovereign power, the dialectical subversions, capture, situations of captivity, capture, and exits, right? Lines of flights, then the question of the prison, the camp, and so on. And now we are looking at this. This is again an essay. You see that I put a note, at the outset from written in 19. A lecture of 1955 on page 4, at the top of page 4. I read this sentence, short sentence, which is again something I have already mentioned, right? Technology, he says, is not equivalent to the essence of a technology. So you have to keep this in mind, that usually we don't think about this even, right? That we don't even ask the question, but that's the question of technology. But technology is different from, is not equivalent to the essence of technology. We might think, or not even think, I mean, we use, right, technological devices, machine devices, and so on and so forth. We usually don't think about this other aspect of the question, which is precisely the essence of technology. What makes technology technology, right? They are not the same. And he again says on page 4, basically the outset of the essay, what he repeats on page 35, the end of the essay, right? Precisely, he says, likewise, the essence of technology, I'm reading, is by no means technological, right? Same idea that we find at the end of the essay. And so then he continues. We can't read everything together, but this is very important, read the sections that are highlighted. So then the question of instrumentality. Technology is an instrument, right? I mean, a means, a device, and so on and so forth, right? That's something that we are more perhaps familiar with when we think about technology. That is on page 5 as well. Then I had to, I just call attention to the question of the concept of cause and causality, but we can't go into that really right together. right? But read that, okay, you had this question of cause, causality on page 6 and then page 7, 9, then also page 18, 23. So it's an important question, right? But, think about what that means, cause, and then you will find also this expression, efficient cause, that which produces something, that which creates something. Okay, I don't want to go into the question of the four causes that he speaks about, but you know what's important for now for us maybe is the idea that there is this calling into question, right, of the concept of cause and causality, and then he goes into also there is this very important concept that you find already on page 9 to begin with, the concept of poiesis, P O I E S I S, poiesis, right, which is the same as what I mentioned before. One of the causes, the efficient cause, what produces something, what creates something. Now, let me say a few words about this concept, this word precisely that you find. You will find over and over again poiesis, that maybe is new to you, but it is, we know the word poetry, poetic, these words, poetry and poetic, similar words, they come from poiesis, from the Greek language, which is to say making, to make something, right? To bring into existence something that wasn't there before. That's what ultimately poetry is, but it is a more generic idea, more generic word. Okay, poiesis is precisely this cause that brings about, that produces, that creates things in general. And actually, on page 10, he goes back to poiesis, and then 11 as well. And on page 11, you will see that there is also this, identity that he speaks of, this relationship between, that's on page 11, poiesis, and this other word also fuses, right? Or it is on page 12, maybe, right? So, I mean, fuses is another word. It's translated as, it's the transliteration. It's actually, I'm sorry, on page 10 already. Okay, fuses, PHYSIS. That's the transliteration from the Greek, right? But it is telling, right? I mean, we know the word physics, physical. That's, these words, they come from fuses, which is the word that usually the Greek word that we translate as nature. Nature. Right now, for Heidegger, not necessarily here, in general, he says fuses, whatever we translate as nature from the Greek, okay, is actually that which arises by itself. Let me know if this is clear. Think about growth. The change, right, that we see, that we experience, seasonally, and so on and so forth. Fuses the blossoming of flowers, and then the weather, and so on and so forth. Fuses is, again, the self-arising power, right? What arises by itself, okay? And we see here the fuses and the poiesis, the making of something, the creating, not creating, not creation in the religious sense, production of a, reality, of a existence of the world. They are the same. Okay, so he, for example, he speaks still in relation to the four causes that I kind of blurred, right? Don't worry about that. It's a kind of it's not necessary for us to go into that right now, but these causes, and then he goes from there into, I hope this is clear, poiesis, the making, bringing forth, to bring forth, and physis, which is another type, more fundamental maybe, of bringing forth the self, bringing the self arising, right? So they let what is not yet present arrive into presencing, right? This is a sentence that you find on page 10, the beginning of the second paragraph. Think about this, what it is to, that's the language Heidegger uses. We have to get used to it. They let what is not yet present. What is not yet present? What is not yet present is perhaps what will be present soon, right? So this points to the question of becoming, change, what comes to be. What comes to be, what becomes, is not yet present. It is not there yet, okay? But then it arrives into the present, into presencing. It presents itself, okay? So there is this movement, okay? And that's this dynamic kind of situation movement, which is precisely the movement of both nature, if you will, physis, remember what we usually translate as nature, what arises by itself, right? The self arising, and also poiesis, the bringing forth of something which was not there before. Okay, so that's basically the idea. And you see in the last paragraph of the page 10, and I read just a few things right after you see the word poiesis, says bringing forth. It is of utmost importance that we think bringing forth in its full scope, and at the same time in the sense in which the Greeks thought it. Not only, he says, not only handcraft, manufacture, whatever humans we make, handcraft, manufacture, not only artistic and poetical bringing into appearance, the making of, works of art, poetry as such, right, and concrete imagery is a bringing forth poiesis. Not only that, so not only what is human made, not only what we make is poiesis, poetic, bringing forth. Physis, you see that word right there. So I call attention to this very important passage, and again, I hope this is clear, but if you have questions, I know this is very difficult, but it is also, I believe, very interesting, very nice once you get, something from it. And contact me, if you have questions, right? So he says, so poiesis is not only that, what we make, okay, what is human made, right? Even at the level of, the industrial level, whatever we make, right? No, physis also, he says, physis, remember, the word that we usually translate as nature, but the Heidegger says, no, you shouldn't, right? Physis is what comes, right, into existence, what emerges, what arises by itself, okay? So physis also, I'm reading now, right? The arising of something from out of itself. That's what physis is. And that we don't see this, think about the potency inside, whereby things happen, right? Flowers blossom in the spring, the rain comes, it's tsunami, natural disaster, and so on, right? We don't see that potency, that physis, which is the arising of something from out of itself. And he says this physis is a bringing forth too, right? So it's not only what is human-made, but this fusis also is a bringing forth, and thus poiesis. Remember, I hope that this is clear, right? I mean, we had to keep in mind these words, right? I mean, new for most of us, right? Poiesis on the one hand, fusis on the other, right? Poiesis usually may indicate something that is produced, made by us, by humans, and so on and so forth, right? Poetic, productive, right? Because productive is similar, right? Productive, the word production comes from the Latin rather than the Greek language, but it has the same meaning, right? To produce is to bring again forth, right? To make something, right? So, but again, we are, playing, so to speak, with these two words, poiesis on the one hand, poetic, productive, if you will, and then fusis, which is usually what we understand as natural, because it is the self-arising, that which arises from out of itself. Now they are brought together. Good. So fusis is indeed, he says, right, nature is indeed, fusis is indeed poiesis in the highest sense, right? The natural bringing forth, if you will, the potency in and within nature is, productive, same as poiesis in the highest sense, right? So poiesis will no longer only be, a matter of, as he says, handcraft, manufacture, whatever we do, we produce artistic production and so on, but, the natural, uh, right, potency whereby things happen, all things happen is of the same, actually of a higher nature. Okay, so he continues, for what presents by means of fuses, what comes to presence, into existence by means of fuses, has the bursting open belonging to bringing forth. So it is of a higher order, if you will. Okay, all right. So because again we can't read everything together, then he goes into the question, like I said, of concealments and concealments, revealing something coming out of a hiding place, so to speak, of being concealed. It comes into full visibility, right? And that's what he's speaking of in terms of precisely aletheia, at the beginning, the very top of page 12, and that's the end of the sentence that begins at the bottom of page 11. The Greeks, he says, have the word for this kind of coming, of a concealment, out of a concealment, right into unconcealment, out of this hiding place. The Greeks have a word for this, he says, and the word is aletheia. Aletheia, that is the first word on page 12, the top of page 12, for revealing, to reveal, and that's the truth. What we usually, the word that we usually use to translate aletheia is truth, which is for Heidegger, maybe problematically, a revealing. So you will read this also, in interesting passages highlighted again on page 12, but that's where he's, the direction he's going to, at one point in the middle of the page, he speaks again of technology. And he says now, he dismisses the idea that technology is instrumental, right? Again, we think of technology in terms of the machine, right? The device, and so on and so forth. No, he says technology is therefore no mere means. Technology is a way of revealing. Now, we know that this revealing is aletheia. You don't have to worry about this now at this stage, but that's what he said, the coming out of concealment into unconcealment, into full, visibility. I mean, it is this coming to the fore of something, this bringing forth. But technology is a way of revealing. It is not simply something that we make, that we do as we please. It is not an instrumental thing, okay? Again, that's where we understand the difference, which is the most important point in this essay, the difference that we saw at the outset of the essay, we will see at the end that technology and the essence of technology are not equivalent, are not the same. Okay, so let me know again, if you have questions, ask, but technology, right, is this way of revealing, and then he says that modern technology, he says that because that's actually interesting for us, as we will move then also in the coming weeks, right, into the question of also at one point perhaps the machine and so on, right? Then yes, like in week 12 we do the machine as well, but digital also. Think about technology. I mean, he's speaking about modern technology. That was before, you know, digital technology, the right situation where we are right now. I mean, the technology that we speak of today is much more, developed and sophisticated, and it is digital technology. But he says, even that, right? He speaks about modern technology, right? I believe it's on page 13, right? I mean, first of all, on page 13, he says, you see the word techne, which is again a Greek, right, from which technology, of course, technique, right? I mean, that will become important in this essay, but he says technology techne belongs to bringing forth. Remember, bringing forth is a poiesis, right? Poetic, production, and so on and so forth. Bringing forth. Techne, from which technology comes, also belongs to the same kind of, family, if you will, of concepts, right? And it is precisely because of that, it is something poetic. Poetic, that's not a word that we usually use in English. Of course, we use the word poetic, but it's the same idea. Productive, right? I mean, it is. And then later, because we can't read everything together, you will see on page 34. I mentioned this already before. Maybe I will again, otherwise you go to page 34 and you will see that techne and art are the same, right? And art, whenever we say, something artistic, something poetic, and so on and so forth, they belong in the same cluster of a constellation of family of concepts, if you will, ideas. But that's where he is. That's what he's telling us as well. That techne, again, is not simply something technological, precisely like he says, right? The essence is different from the technological aspect. Okay, it's something much, if you will, deeper than that, more fundamental than that, more important than that, and so on and so forth. Okay, again, because I see that this has been already longer than I intended it to be. I hope I gave you some ideas, right? But I want to at least call attention to some of the things toward the end of the essay. For example, again, if we go back to page that I call attention to, well, I mean, first of all, the question of enframing that I told you very important for us comes at the end of page 19, right? I mean, I read that already, and but this enframing should be clear, I mean, the sense in which I spoke of it. It's a simplification. It's a simplistic understanding of it, but it is this kind precisely of a frame, right, within which we always already are, a situation in which we find ourselves that we can alter, we can modify, we can change, but also uh, within that original situation, which is not of our choosing, right? This enframing, which is again, in a sense, a kind of situation of capture, from which, of course, there are some lines of flights, but that's what Heidegger is saying, that there is this fundamental um, modality that comes before, if you will, human doing and acting and changing and so on and so forth. Okay, but it is not religious. Okay, that's the important. I mean, I hope that this is clear, right? I mean, there is a power, right? Because remember, we spoke about sovereign power, the king, and so on and so forth, with Hobbes and so on, right? Political power, but there is something which, if you will, I mentioned this before, has, for Heidegger, right, already been decided to begin with. The destiny is there to begin with. Okay, so this is more. I hope that this is clear. Then he goes back into poiesis on page 21 and page, for example, 23. There is one important short sentence that I want to read toward the end, at the bottom of the page, highlighted for you, the essence of a modern technology. That's what I was saying before. Shows itself in what we call enframing. Now, I mean, maybe, think about this. The essence also from within the trajectory of the class, right? I mean, we saw not only, right, I mean, we see the establishing of the formulation of the theory of sovereign power, and then also, the dialectical subversions, but then the capture kind of situation, and the exit, the lines of flight, but also the prison and the camp, and the logic of surveillance and the society of control in which we are. The camp, we saw that in Agamben, the prison with Foucault, Davis, right? I mean, the idea that the prison is everywhere, the camp virtually everywhere, right? So technology today becomes very important in that sense, precisely, right? I mean, digital technology, surveillance, as we know, right? I mean, that has become, so developed and sophisticated, this machine that really enframes, if you will, everyone, right? All aspects of life. I mean, we can, this is just a pointer for you, think about this. What does it mean to say? The essence of a modern technology, we might say today contemporary digital technology, right? I mean, the algorithm, right, shows itself in what we call enframing. Okay? So, and anything can be, like, you will find the concept also as you read of standing reserve, which is also very important, right? For example, you find that on page 17, which is not only, right, humans, but everything, all nature, right? I mean, everything can be used, abused, exploited, and so on and so forth. And so, always within the same logic of capture, which is the logic of enframing. So this is the question, what enframing itself actually is. And then at the bottom of page 23, he says it is nothing technological, right? Even the enframing, if you will, of the digital right? Divide today. We speak about drones and so on and so forth. This enframing, this idea that we are always within sight. I mean, remember also page 200 of Go Back, Michel Foucault in Discipline and Punish that we saw 2 weeks ago. Visibility is a trap, right? So visibility, the open, visibility is the open, but that itself is a trap, right? Foucault said in right, Discipline and Punish, which is not, again, completely different from what we are looking at here. This idea of enframing is precisely nothing technological, that then a technology becomes merely a way of implementing this type of enframing, but the framing itself, right, is not technological. Nothing on the order of a machine, he continues. It is, again, I'm reading, the way in which the reality, the truth, reality reveals itself as, again, the concept I mentioned before, standing reserve. Okay? So does this, page 24, does this revealing, remember the truth, right, aletheia, happen somewhere beyond all human doing? No, but neither does it happen exclusively in man or decisively through man. Okay, so that's something that you may want to think about. Again, we can't, there would be so much to say about this. Then he speaks about the question of destiny, right? But we can't go into that, but see what you can make of it. But I just want to read maybe a couple of lines right at the end of the bottom of page 24 and then 25, the top of 25. And framing is an ordering of destiny, right? And framing is there to begin with. Remember, I said that destiny is that which stays, that which remains, as is every way of revealing. And then he says at the top of page 25, bringing forth, remember, poiesis, right, this productive, poetic thing, is also a destiny in a sense. Okay, so it is something that we cannot simply avoid. It's something that we cannot simply get rid of. It is part of the destiny of, that which is, as he says as well on this page. Okay, so then in any case, we can't be too long. I spoke about this. Page 25 is also important. I want to go briefly and then wrap up to the question of the danger, which is introduced at least on page 26. You find the word danger in the middle of it, and then he continues speaking about the danger. But what I want to call attention to is, what he says in terms of the danger, is precisely this enframing itself, right? And on page 28, there is, well, first of all, there are these two wonderful lines from a poet, Hölderlin, that Heidegger quotes not only in this essay, but very often in many other things he wrote or lectures he gave, and that I want to read in the middle of page 28, right, where he says, thus, where enframing, we are now familiar with this word, reigns, there is danger in the highest sense. Think about this. I gave you some, again, this is a matter of interpretation, which we had to be a bit cautious with this as well, but there is danger in, there is danger in everything. There is danger in experience, new experience, otherwise it doesn't count as experience. There is danger in living one's daily life. There is danger in this right modality of this society of control and surveillance in which we live. But he says, where in framing reigns, there is danger in the highest sense. But then, quoting Hölderlin, right? You can check, the name is there. You can check something, out. You can Google it. But these lines are very important, certainly for Heidegger, but in general, very, uh, you know, beautiful also lines. Where the danger is, but where the danger is, grows the saving power also. You have the danger, but you also have what saves you from the danger, right? You have the danger and also the saving power coming from the same, if you will, source, from the same, ultimately ontological ground. We spoke about the word ontology. Ontology is the science, the study of a being, of that which is. It is still part of the destiny and the destining and the history of that which is for Heidegger. Okay, so this question of the danger, see what you may, write about this. The question is, I asked you to write about and framing, and because we also did the question of capture, the prison, the camp, and so on, you can write something about that, and also danger. Another important page for this question of danger will be page 33, toward the end. Okay, I really had to wrap up now, but that's the question. Okay, so he says in the middle of page 33, the question concerning technology, which is the title of this day, is the question concerning the constellation, right, in which revealing and concealing, right, in which the coming to presence of truth come to pass. Okay, so that's basically the idea of the essence of technology, of enframing, and then of the danger also is that where that he describes as using Hölderlin's lines, right, where the danger is, there is also possibly the saving power. I leave that to you to think, to make something of this. What do you think about, in relation to this text, and also within the whole trajectory of the class, do write something about this question of this enframing, framing, the way we spoke of it, and the question of the danger, and the question of technology, also what we might say today about technology, the essence of technology, digital technology. I don't want to be too simplistic, but it might be, okay, you have technology, the machine, the cell phone, the airplane, the whatever machine, digital machine, the platform. Today, think about the platform, I don't know, Uber, Amazon, and so on and so forth, the machinery all around us. Okay, you have all these things that we use, right? As users, we become users, right? But what is, behind? Don't, what is the essence? What makes this possible, and what is really the meaning, if you will, of it? And also, you may also want to maybe think about what might be, although this may be a little simplistic, but it might be interesting, what might be good and bad. And maybe the question of technology is not a question of whether technology is good or bad, positive or negative, right? And yet we can think about this as well, right? Think about the implications when we actually address this as the political way in which we, for example, abuse the machine, technology, and so on and so forth. Technology whose essence precisely comes before us. Again, the idea is that technology itself is not technological, it is not human made. right? So there is also, next time we will speak about the question of the threshold. What is the threshold? you know so many things are about the threshold, passing or not passing, a given threshold. Okay, so see what you can make of it. I know it's very difficult, but also, very important, and at times, um, you know, with so many really insights, about things that maybe we haven't thought about before. So I hope you can make something of it, and I will see you next time. For and probably we'll have a Zoom meeting before that as well. Okay, I'm going to schedule it soon. Okay, bye. And do your again journal entry. Okay, that's very important. Thank you.